Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this special live session. I'm Itzik Amiel, and together with my friend Rabbi David Schwartz, I should say, we are excited to bring you another inspiring standout episode. This is a
Ah,
collaborative broadcast that brought to you by ABA International Law Section and The Switch. And in this series, David and I will interview an international legal leaders out of the amazing community of the ABA International Legal Section members and share with you actually new insights, ideas, stories, tragedies to inspire you and to help you to grow your professional practice or your career. So you're invited. So hi, David. Excited for today's session?
I am super excited for today's session. We've got a great guest, and it's lovely to be back with you, Itzik. I hope that you're well, and hope that everybody who's able to join us is doing well today.
Awesome. And it's absolutely a month passed very fast as everybody sees. Are just unbelievable.
A
But
hard,
again, we're in the second session. You're right.
exactly.
So thanks, David. And this episode, actually, we titled it for immigrant to immigration lawyer. And some of you already start sending email thinking what is it about. Again, if you're here with us, we want to know you're here. Our guest wants to know you're here. So type your name in the chat under the video. Let us know who you are, where you're dialing from, so you know that you're with us. And if you have questions during the session to our guest, please be so kind also to put it there. So we would love to ask your question to our guest. So
Exactly. Please let our guests know that you're here because we're super psyched that you're joining us today.
yeah, exactly. So I think we should dive right in. And I think one thing I want to discuss with you, Dave, because one thing question I always ask is it, perseverance or being persistent or maybe sheer luck are the component of success. What do you think? What is your opinion about of your experience of your career?
Yeah, well, I think you need a little bit of everything, right? I mean, you're absolutely right. Without a little bit of luck, heck, we just had the Super Bowl here this past week. It's literally a game of inches because even millimeters. If a finger hadn't touched the extra point try by the 49ers, the game could have been completely different. So, I mean, it's just remarkable how being in this location as opposed to being in that location can make a difference. And then you got to try. I mean, right? I heard somebody say that we should all take a lesson from Travis Kelsey and the way he works to try and get the extra yards for a first down. If we all do that kind of effort in all the things that are important in our lives, how successful will we be? So I think absolutely you need a lot of both, and I that's what I think about when I think about our upcoming guests. So
Great. I mean, as a European who understand nothing about Super Bowl, I'm going Taylor Swift way, which that's what we followed. And I would say, that based on her and based on her opinion, I think one thing for sure, it's not about luck. We call luck actually for things that happen not according to statistics, and then we call it luck. So I do believe listening to many success stories, and from my own experience, of course, that isn't luck. It is simply just doing things right. In fact, I dearly believe that luck can come to any lawyer who works hard and remains persistent in trying to reach his or her goal. So I mean, I have no doubt about it. But you should actually not, if you don't need to believe me, of course. This is the reason actually we have the honor to have this episode with advocate Sergio Karas. And I hope we pronounce the founding name right, Sergio. You'll let us know soon. And you're going to see it actually in firsthand that it's not only about luck, if you want. I think his story will convince all of us. But before we invite Sergio to join us, first let me see. I mean, I see people coming in, David. So I hear Jonathan, our colleague Jonathan Mayer. Thank you, Jonathan, letting us know you're here. I mean, everybody, copy Jonathan. Let us know you're here. I know you are here. We could see you here, but we want you to stand out and let us know you are here. But before again, we invite Sergio to join us. Let us share with you some highlights about Sergio because there's so much more. So Sergio is a Canadian lawyer, barrister, and solicitor. He's certified in specialized in Canadian citizenship and immigration law by the Law Society of Ontario, an internationally recognized expert in Canadian immigration law. He has been involved in many widely reported high profile cases, he's going to hear soon. And Sergio actually contributes to the press, providing current information about Canadian immigration law and policy. He's actually a regular guest on local, national, international radio and television program. He's also a contributing writer on immigration issues for Canadian HR Reporter and Employment Law Today, and opinion writer also for the Law 360 in Canada. He was instructor in immigration law on Sheridan College in Toronto, and he's a member of the Law Society of Ontario and the Canadian Bar Association, CBA. He is the past chair of the Citizen and Immigration section of the Ontario Bar Association, and is the past chair of the Immigration Nationality Committee of the International Bar Association. He is also the past chair of the Canada Committee and the International Ethics Committee, and currently is the co-chair of the Immigration and Naturalization Committee of the American Bar Association, the ABA International Law Section, and that's what we are here for. He's also a member of the American Immigration Lawyer Association, and again, his work has learned him international. It got him international praise, and has been subject for several television documentaries. Yes, yes, and best-selling books. You're gonna hear all about that, and I'm sure we hear more about it from his stories in this insightful episode. I don't want to get told too much more. I know he's waiting to come in. So without further ado, David, let's bring Sergio to join us.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Sergio, welcome.
There he is.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. It's great to have you on the Standout series. You're definitely a standout lawyer, as the Itzik just highlighted. My gosh, a very impressive resume. But we titled the session From Immigrant to Immigration Lawyer. And of course, I think we all know, but whether it's from your name or from your accent, that you're not necessarily from Canada originally. So tell us about your background and how we came up with this title. So
Sure, thank you. But first, I just want to make it clear that I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so none of the Taylor Swift stuff for me. I'm like Josh Allen, high risk, high reward quarterback.
Awesome.
So I'm
he is really a great
fearless. I use my legs. Anyways, having said that, yes, I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. My parents' background was that my father was from Poland. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and after the war, when he survived Auschwitz concentration camp, he lived in Europe for 3 years. He lived initially in Salzburg, Austria. Then he wandered around and he ended up in Torino, Italy, and then he ended up living in Paris for 3 years. And he was going to stay when one of his brothers, who had survived the war, found them through the auspices of what it was in those days, the Joint. So he took him to Argentina. And in those days, Argentina was a very wealthy country. But unfortunately, it was governed by Juan Perón, who was very pro-fascist and pro-Nazi. So Jews were not welcome in Argentina. But my father managed to enter the country, and then he adapted, and he met my mother. My mother's background was a little bit different. My mother was already second generation born in Argentina. My great-grandparents, meaning my mother's grandparents, were originally from an area which is called Bessarabia, which is between Russia and Romania, and today is modern-day Moldova. So because Jews were not allowed to own land in Russia or Romania, there were a lot of philanthropies in the 1800s. We're talking about 1880s, such as Baron Hirsch, Montefiore, and the Rothschilds, who made deals with the government of Argentina to bring in Jews who could work the land. And the deal was that they would get the land for free as long as they would work the land. So my great-grandparents lived in a town where everybody was Jewish in that town, called Bassa Bilbaso. And of course, they were like, they had land and they had cows, and they were called the Jewish gauchos because they were just like every other gaucho, except for the observance of Kashrut and Shabbat. So that's why the locals call them the Jewish gauchos. Today that area is a tourist attraction because there's nobody left there as people moved into the cities. And so when my mother moved to the city for university, that's when she met my father, who was from Poland originally, as I said. And then I was born in Buenos Aires in Argentina. After many years of living in Argentina, I emigrated with my parents here to Toronto, Canada, in 1980. I went to first university here, to York University. I have a degree in political science, and then I was admitted to law school at Oslo Law School here in Toronto, and became a lawyer. And after working summers and doing odd jobs such as pizza delivery to be able to pay for university, and working odd jobs and things like that, I managed to graduate, and then I started working in law offices, and then I opened up my own practice doing exclusively immigration. And today my practice is mostly centered on corporate immigration, although not exclusively. I do other aspects of immigration right now. I used to do a lot of refugee work, asylum work, when I started my practice, and a lot of legal aid work. And the practice evolved into corporate immigration. And for many years, I represent a lot of companies bringing skilled workers to Canada, bringing people in technical roles or finance or CEOs of companies, and individuals like that um, who are either permanent here in Canada, or they want to do projects for the company, infrastructure, for example, things like that. And that's what my work is like.
Awesome.
Wow, thanks.
Thank you very much, Sergio. I mean, this is inspiring story, and I know you have more to tell us. I mean, I don't know how many people that you already know have heard that story, but when we prepared for this session, I remember something that captured me, at least in your story, and I want to move to that point when we continue our discussion. Because years ago, I learned from another fellow speaker, as a friend called David Merriman Scott. Maybe some of you know him, who is a good marketing strategy that really can develop or definitely help out if you really want to stand out, if you want to stand out from the crowd, and that's called newsjacking. Now, newsjacking is a strategy for incorporating real-time news into marketing strategies. Now, it's actually a way to benefit from breaking news stories, like we used it actually at the beginning of our session when we talk about Super Bowl. David did it very nicely. I mean, stories now on various platforms, and how by newsjacking you can boost brand awareness and really generate leads, for example. This is actually in short. So now, one of the most important cases that you have handled involve headline, I should say, and correct me if I'm wrong, ripped from the front pages, even put you on the front page of the USA Today. And we all know that. So seems to me a perfect execution, or was what I just mentioned, newsjacking strategy. So newsjacking strategy. So can you tell us more about what happened? What is the story behind it? Because some people don't even know about this.
Yes, with pleasure. And this is something that really was life-changing. And let me tell you how it started, if I may. So what happened was that I was running my immigration practice, and I was on a trip for business development to Switzerland. And I was in Zurich, and I had a very good friend, a lawyer. Her name is Katerina Nageli. And Katerina and I had been corresponding for a while. And, she's a lovely person, and she has an office in the center of Zurich. Um, and what happened was that I met with her, and the following day I was in a hotel in the corner, and I turn on the TV, and I hear a story in one of the television channels talking about money that was in bank accounts in Switzerland that was apparently deposited by victims of the Holocaust prior to the war. And there was a dispute as to how to get a hold of this money because, as you know, Switzerland has very, very stringent banking secrecy laws. So there was an ombudsman of the Swiss bank that was involved in this. And, the story was just a segment. So as I was finishing my shower and I went down for breakfast in the hotel, I picked up the Swiss newspapers, and lucky for me, I can speak some German and read German. And of course, in the front page of a newspaper called Tagesanzeiger, which is a local Zurich paper, I see the story. So I phoned Katerina, my friend, and I said, listen, I want to come and talk to you about this because I think I have some ideas. I said, oh, sure, come over to my office. So over a cup of coffee, I said, look, this is a story that apparently there is all this money in unclaimed Swiss bank accounts. And what happens is that obviously there are people who are descendants from the Holocaust victims. So why don't we find out? And she said, sure, you go back to Canada and you do what you have to do. And if there's any work to be done in Switzerland with respect to filings or anything like that, I will help you. No problem. Okay. So I came back to Canada and put a very small ad in one of the Jewish newspapers here. And of course, my phone started ringing off the hook. Remember, this was at the nascent years of the internet, right? In the late 90s, pre-2000. And people started coming into my office and telling me all these stories about family members who they thought had put money in Switzerland. Of course, very few people had any kind of documents. So Katerina and I engage in trying to find out and filing claims in Switzerland, in Zurich, with the ombudsman of the Swiss banks. And of course, lo and behold, one thing led to another. And I had at that point some good contacts in Canada's major newspaper called the Globe and Mail. So I phoned one of the reporters and said, listen, would you be interested in this story? I think, people are coming to my office and calling me with these stories. I said, yeah, sure. So they ran a very short story, but there was a reporter by the name of Laila Sarik who phoned me and I said, I'm interested in this story. And she put it in the front page of the Globe and Mail. So, of course, things started to snowball. And at some point, this became really, really big. And other newspapers here in Canada picked up the story in Montreal, in local newspapers here in Toronto and out west. And the reporter put the story, and I got a phone call from one of her colleagues, and she said to me, "Listen, I've been reading the stories, and I'm interested in doing a book proposal regarding this."
Wow.
And her name is, the reporter's name is Isabel Vincent, and she was working for the Global Mail at the time. And Isabel now works for the New York Post as an investigative reporter. And she asked me to meet some of my clients, and I had a lovely couple of cousins who were originally from Vienna, Austria, and they were very well-spoken people, and their story was very real. They had real wealth before the war in Austria, and she interviewed them. She liked them a lot, and she checked the story. And of course, she wrote the book, and the book was published. And then the book got translated into several languages. And USA Today did a story, other newspapers did stories, and things snowballed. And that's how I ended up doing that. And of course, I learned a lot. It was a learning experience for me because I learned a lot about the stories of that people had, the kind of documents that they brought into my office, whatever they had, But also I learned a lot about institutional interests and the fights that occur when there is a lot of money at stake. There were a couple of $1 billion at stake, and everybody circling around like vultures around this money. And of course, some of the stories were very heartwarming. Others were much more poignant, and others were very ugly. That people who just wanted to take advantage of things. So, especially a lot of the organizations, their view was very different from ours. My interest was always to return the money to the rightful owners, be it Holocaust survivors still alive uh, or descendants of Holocaust survivors. And a lot of the organizations wanted to just gobble up the money for projects, and they set up large bureaucracies, and people get paid large salaries and take lots of trips, and this was not interesting to me. So we butted heads with very important people at the top of the food chain, so to say. And in some cases we prevailed, and they got their share, and the survivors got their share as well.
What a
So
wonderful.
I was very happy because my father, being a Holocaust survivor, he was very interested in this particular issue. Um, but of course, he didn't come from a wealthy family who had any money in these accounts, because most of those people were either people who used to live in Germany or Austria, or some in Hungary, who were well-to-do before the war. My father was from Poland, and of course, his family didn't have any money in this bank accounts. But this was the story, and things continue to evolve. In that
Thank you,
case,
Sergio.
yeah, it wasn't the only case. I had other cases, regarding immigration, in which there were, implications for national security and for people breaking the law, etc. But I've been in the front page of national newspapers and other newspapers more than 500 times right now over my career.
Wow.
Yeah. And done a lot of television programs and news, etc. And I think that one of the lessons is that if you feel passionately about an issue and you think you can contribute and have something to say about it, be it good or bad, and not just as an advocate, but sometimes as a resource for the media, just don't be afraid to say it, because uh, a lot of people are interested, and especially these days that we have this media overload, and there is so many aspects of a story that are being promoted in different venues. Unfortunately, today, there's so much misinformation and hyperbole that what I try to do when the media contacts me is to make sure that I give them an unbiased opinion, of course, not about my cases, but an unbiased opinion about how I view a particular legal issue. And I think that's very important, because then the reporters will have respect for you. They know that you're not just talking your book, but that instead you are providing some sound legal advice or legal analysis that is based on sound legal principles, and they will quote you because they respect your opinion.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Sergio. Just
Yeah.
David, I want to just one little remark. I think that because we listen to amazing story, but those people listening to us right now learn another thing. I mean, you all hooked to the story of Sergio, but that's what we always tell you: to stand out is about your stories. It's your stories. Nobody else can tell your stories. Facts tell, stories sell. Do it. Learn to tell your stories like Sergio did, because it was so vivid. I felt like we were in the room with him. And exactly, David, yours.
Absolutely. I mean, 100% that, and it's important to develop your story, to not just, tell it from scratch each time, but really, stand in front of the mirror or tell it to your friends and have them help you highlight sort of what are the aspects that they find most interesting in the story, so that you create something that really resonates with the people that you meet, the way Sergio has done for us. So Sergio, really an amazing story. And you even answered my question about utilizing, how you got into the newspaper 500 times and what those techniques are. I want to just then, use a minute to just ask you, what did it take for you to go outside your comfort area as an immigration lawyer to take this case? Because I think that's a great lesson for our viewers as well, is, this was not an immigration case, right?
No.
I mean, so like, did you, you just sort of dove in.
Right.
Well, he was
What
desperate.
happened was, yeah, what happened was, okay, there was a confluence of circumstances, obviously, and sometimes you have to be in the right place at the right time. But the confluence of circumstances was that, first of all, as I told you, my father was a Holocaust survivor, so this story was rather personal to me. Second was that I started reading this and I became like really upset. Why is all this money in, sitting for like 60, 70 years in Swiss bank accounts, and people who are the rightful owners or the descendants of the rightful owners don't have this money. So it was more of a question of a quest for justice, so to say. And I was very lucky that I had people who were supportive, and such as my dear friend Katharina Nageli in Switzerland, and also Isabel Vincent, who wrote the book Hitler's Silent Partners, Nazi Gold, Swiss bank accounts, and the pursuit of justice, and others who were extremely supportive of my work. And of course, I also had the assistance of a New York litigation attorney. His name is Richard Crisona, and Richard used to work at Cravath, and he opened up his own office at that time, and he took an interest in this, and he helped me with some filings in court in the Southern District of New York, where we butted head with some of the big firms there, because they were representing other parties who wanted to grab this money for themselves, and it's so there were a lot of people who were really helpful, and I'm just grateful for that. And it became, when you start achieving some sort of, I wouldn't say success, but I would rather say some sort of lift of energy for a project that you're doing, it kind of fits on itself, right? And you want to get to the final point, right? And you want to finish. I don't like quitters. So, I like to start something and finish it. Otherwise, don't start, because, nothing is impossible. As Napoleon said, the word impossible is written in the dictionary of imbeciles. So, it's, you have
Another
to.
good thing about you, Sergio, and I have to say it loudly to everybody who listening to us, the ability to thank people in public, to remember the name. How many years ago we're talking about here?
No, we're talking about we're talking about 2097 to 2002, more or less.
25
Uh,
years ago.
I worked on that
Very
project for
impressive.
7 years. I worked on that project for 7 years, and I tell you, it wasn't for the money, because it was very little for me there. We were only able to get some money if we were successful, right? And very few cases were successful, unfortunately, because there were a lot of people who had delusions of grandeur about their families. But it was good for the soul.
And I think because of people like you and Paul did like that, I think David will agree with me. We are proud to be part of this profession because it's not only about money, right? It's a way to give back to others, to care about things, and by doing things like that, we see it. But it's the kind. I mean, again, I'm calling everybody here because we see you here. We are still live. We want to say hi to you. I mean, it's Jonathan, Nancy, David, Mandanena, Sandra, Rose, Juresh, Poreni. A lot of you here. So if you have here and you have a question to Sergio before we ending, ask it right now. Put it down in the chat. We want to see it. We would like to address Sergio with your
Absolutely.
question. Again, we are still live, and our conversation with Sergio Karas from immigrant to immigration lawyer. And thank you everybody for joining us. David, you wanted to say something?
No, again, to me, you've highlighted, Itzik, how connecting and by thanking people, we're sort of really expressing that sense of appreciation. And often, I don't know, Sergio, how you feel about having had a chance to do that. We also often feel better ourselves as well. So we've helped others, we've made them feel appreciated, and we feel better about ourselves too. And so it's and all of that is possible in the international law section because we're all about helping one another, and it's one of the great things about the section. So 100% love that concept of
no, it's true. It's true. And I also, I want to say I'm very grateful to the American Bar Association section of international law. And I have lots of people that I would like to thank. I've been a member since 2009. I have held different positions of responsibility. And of course, with responsibility also comes commitment to the committees that I co-chair, starting with the Canada Committee. And I have to thank the person who brought me into the committee, Marcy Strass, who now lives in Denver. And I also have a special thanks for my current co-chair of the Immigration and Naturalization Committee, Beatriz Trillos Ballerini, because she's been awesome. She's incredibly reliable and thoughtful, and we made a big effort between her and myself to put the committee, front and center. And we're very grateful to the ABA for recognizing that with the awards that they gave us for the committee success. We encourage people to participate. We have grown the committee also to more members. And of course, sometimes it feels like herding cats, right? But it is the nature of the beast. So I'm very grateful to Beatriz for all the efforts that she helps with. And we're going to be doing great programs together in both Houston, in the coming conference, energy conference in a couple of weeks, and also in DC in May for the annual conference. And we want to showcase the talent that the committee has and the expertise that we are able to recruit. Also, there are a lot of people that I would like to thank. Members of the staff of the section of international law who have always been super supportive and put out with all our demands for quick turnaround of our questions. Lavinia Cousin, for example, and Angela have been absolutely phenomenal. And even people who worked in the past, who are no longer with the section, were great. And also the good friends that I have made over the years in the section, such as, for example, Juan Carlos Velázquez de León from Mexico, Eduardo Benavides from Peru, many others. I don't want to leave anybody out, but many others, because after all, we are in the section not just to network and get business and referrals and things like that, or showcase our talents, but also we are in the section to make friends. And I have to say, a lot of these friendships are very long lasting. And I'm always very happy when I go to a conference and I see people I haven't seen for 6 months or a year, and we can shake hands or hug. And there are too many people to name. For example, Steve Richman, Lawrence Hanson, many people. That are always the regulars in our our committees, and they're always very supportive of our work.
Well,
Here's another
Sergio,
lesson to learn from you, Sergio. You always
yeah.
be 2 steps ahead of the crowd, right? I was about to make David, I was about to make his life miserable to ask him to think. Only 3 people. He already answered before you could ask.
Well,
Exactly.
I have to say also that outside the committee, I also have a lot of people to thank. And there are many people who have crossed my life who, in various capacities, not just professionally, but sometimes it's important when you are in need and people reach out. And I really would like to give a special thanks to 2 people that helped me a lot in a time of need. That's Rabbi Chaim Strauchler, who was my rabbi at Sharashumim congregation, and now he is in Teaneck, New Jersey, and Rabbi Elliot Diamond, who is is my rabbi as well, now, and both of them were very supportive. For example, when my parents passed away, because my parents passed away 3 weeks apart, and it was very, very difficult. And they both opened their homes, and they reached out, and they made sure that that I was taken care of, that that I wasn't falling into a depression or anything like that. And they were super supportive in that sense. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank them. And also Rabbi Noah Cheses, who's now in Boston, and he was also part of the group of the 3.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to say that I'm looking forward to my hug in Houston. Sergio.
For sure, yes.
I'm
Yeah.
about to say that next time you meet Sergio in real life, now he's a reason to hug him. Go tell him that you listen to his story. Go listen to his
I
wonderful
have to
personality.
say also, I have to say that one of the hardest things was during COVID that we didn't have conferences. It was a feeling of emptiness not to be able to go to New York and to DC and to the annual conference and to hang out with people at the bar and have a drink and do the rounds and circulate. It's really it was really depressing for that
Absolutely.
reason. Not only from because we were working from home, but also because the social contact and the networking is so important for us, right?
After all, we all
100%.
social behavior. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to all of you listening, if you don't ask a question, it's the time now to ask your question because I think this path for immigration lawyer, is a good evidence, great evidence for a study by the Center of the American Entrepreneurship that showed that first generation immigrants of children or of immigrants founded 43% of the Fortune 500 companies 2007 already. And I'm sure that this number thing only went up 15 years later, of course. But foreign born entrepreneurial success isn't limited to the United States. In fact, according to data collected by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, 69 countries that were surveyed reported a higher entrepreneurial activities among immigrants than among native born citizens. So think about it. Interesting to find, right? But we have limited understanding to why. New research really suggests as personality based self selection, in particular, a propensity for risk taking, maybe a hidden driver, but there's no really why. They never found why. But it's outside of the scope of this episode, of course. Now we want to summarize this great session. Let me share with you a quote from Lucius Annaeus Seneca, who said, and probably a lot of you have heard it before, I didn't know the source of it: luck is a matter of preparation meeting opportunity, as you're waiting right away in the store of Sergio. For now, both David and myself want to thank you, Sergio. You've been fantastic. I mean, the time is passing so fast. I know you
Thanks
have
to
so
you
many
for
stories,
having me.
and I'm sure a lot of people listening to you will really first time heard the story. So thank you for that.
Really terrific, Sergio. Great to have you on.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
So don't leave us. Stay with us because David and Mia will say, but thank you, Sergio. We'll say
See you in
goodbye to
Houston.
Sergio.
See you in Houston.
And David and myself, we stay. David, Sergio left us, so we are here alone. Just to summarize, what do you think?
Oh, first of all, what a great guy, and what an amazing story that his taking his past and using it to try and help others. Just really an amazing story of showing his care and concern. And I can't help but think about his comments at the end about how, attending a conference of the International Law Section, it's not just about the referrals, but it's about the friendships that you make. And when I think of that, I'm thinking about the switch, right? That you as you've taught us over and over again, you have to, if you actually make it about the other person and actually make it more about the relationship, then actually those referrals will come even faster and even easier. So that's what I was thinking about when I heard that, is just how important it is to develop those deep and lasting friendships, both because they're nurturing for ourselves emotionally and help us from a health perspective, but also because they actually end up being the source of what you're looking for if you're looking for those referrals. So that's what came to mind.
You always squeeze compliment for me. I feel unembarrassed every year to see you, but thank you, David, for that. I mean, for me, Sergio, a really life story reflect indeed on 2 points. And I think you mentioned it, but I want to mention it again, because what most people call luck is really about being present when opportunity appears. You increase your odds if you are there often, it's just simple as it sounds, and of course it requires persistence. But if you're frustrated because everyone else gets their shot and you never seems to get an opportunity, my first question is going to be about persistence, nothing else. Because persistence create luck. You saw it again and again and again in that story of Sergio. Well, here's the thing: if persistence were easy, everyone will do it, right? What makes hard is when you keep showing up and luck doesn't immediately materialize. That's when you realize you need a little something to keep going. And that's why we talk about perseverance. Perseverance creates luck. The second point I want to inflect is about the great opportunity in business and life. An opportunity, like time, waits for no one. It is passes by quickly, sometimes coming to you directly, knocking right on your door, like happened to when you open the TV on a hotel, if you heard the story of Sergio. But like an impatient courier, it won't wait long for you to open the door and invite it in, right? You see, opportunity knows how desirable it is. If you don't jump for it, someone else will. And I hope you learn from these 2 things. And our friends, is take time, take action. I hope you implement everything you heard here in the stories. In between, I would suggest warmly listen to it again. Listen to the story, not just to the story, for the all elements and the facts Sarah shared with us, and see what did he do good. What did you could learn for your own life, for your own practice. We've been here with Sergio Karas. He is a top immigration lawyer and a wonderful member, supporter of the ABA International Law Section. And the last thing is I want to thank you, David, again, for another joyful episode. Always pass too fast. I'm waiting already for the next one. Thank you, David, for everything.
I'm looking forward as well. It's always great to spend even just 45 minutes with you. Amazing to spend it with everybody who's here. Thank you all for joining us for this episode, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the next standout episode.
Thank you, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.